The PARADOX engine. The gravitational wave detector hummed with a low, persistent frequency that had become the background music of Dr. Maya Sharma's life. In the underground laboratory of the International Quantum Research Institute, she had spent the last 5 years pursuing what her colleagues politely called speculative physics and what her critics dismissed as scientific fantasy. The 36-year-old physicist moved methodically around the central chamber, adjusting calibrations that most experts would have considered already perfect. "Tell me again why we're running the simulation at 3 a.m., Dr. Kai Chen asked, stifling a yawn as he monitored energy levels from his workstation. As Maya's second-in-command, he had grown accustomed to her unconventional work hours, but even he had his limits. Because, Maya said without looking up from her calculations, quantum fluctuations in the local field are at their minimum during this time window. We need absolute stability for this run. What Maya couldn't tell them, what she couldn't tell anyone, was about the patterns she'd been seeing in the data for weeks now. Anomalies that didn't align with any known physical model. Inconsistencies that hinted at something fundamental about reality that no one had yet grasped. "The paradox engine is ready," announced Dr. Amara Okafor, their theoretical physicist whose equations had formed the backbone of the project. "All parameters are within tolerance." The paradox engine was Maya's brainchild, a device designed to manipulate quantum entanglement on a macro scale. Most of the scientific community considered it impossible. The laws of physics, they argued, simply didn't allow for the kind of energy manipulation Maya's theories suggested. But Maya had never been one to accept limitations. "Initiate containment field," Maya instructed, her voice steady despite the adrenaline surging through her system. This would be their 15th attempt. The previous 14 had yielded fascinating data, but had fallen short of the breakthrough she knew was possible. "Containment active," Kai confirmed. "Energy level stable. Beginning primary sequence," Maya said, activating the series of commands that would bring the paradox engine to life. The laboratory lights dimmed as power redirected to the central chamber. Inside the reinforced glass enclosure, a sphere of metallic alloys began to rotate, slowly at first, then with increasing speed. Suspended in a magnetic field, it was the physical component of a system that operated primarily on the quantum level. "Quantum field stabilizing," Amara reported, her eyes fixed on a display showing multicolored wave patterns. "We're seeing coherence levels beyond anything we've achieved before." Maya nodded, careful not to let her excitement show. "Proceed to phase 2. The sphere's rotation accelerated, and blue-white energy began to coalesce around it. Not electrical discharge or plasma, but something that defied easy classification. It was as if reality itself was being warped in that small, contained space. "This is incredible," Kai whispered, momentarily forgetting his fatigue. "The field is self-sustaining." "Quantum coherence at 87%, Amara announced, her voice rising slightly. 88, 89. We've never been past 73 before." Maya moved to the primary control console, her fingers dancing across the holographic interface. This was the moment she had been waiting for, when theory transitioned into reality. Initiating resonance cascade. The energy field around the sphere began to pulse, synchronized with a sequence Maya had derived from what most physicists would consider mathematical nonsense. But she had seen the pattern, understood it when no one else could. "Maya," Amara's voice had an edge of concern, "the system is generating more energy than we're putting in." "That's impossible." "I know." Maya completed the sentence without breaking her concentration. "Record everything." The impossible was exactly what Maya had been pursuing. The sphere now spun so rapidly it appeared motionless, while the energy field surrounding it had transformed into a perfect torus, a donut shape of impossibly pure light that shouldn't exist according to any conventional understanding of physics. "Energy output at 127% of input and rising," Kai reported, his voice a mixture of fear and awe. "This violates conservation of energy. It shouldn't be." A sharp tremor ran through the laboratory. cutting him off. Not an earthquake, something more localized, as if space itself had shuddered. Containment field holding, Amara confirmed quickly. But these readings, Maya, we're seeing quantum effects at the macro level. This defies everything we know about quantum decoherence. Maya allowed herself a small smile. That's the point. For the next 17 minutes, the paradox engine continued to operate in a state that violated multiple fundamental laws of physics. It generated more energy than it consumed. It maintained quantum coherence at scales where quantum effects should have disappeared. And most importantly, it created a stable field that appeared to slightly alter the gravitational constant within its influence. When Maya finally initiated the shutdown sequence, the laboratory was utterly silent. The three scientists stared at their data displays, trying to process what they had just witnessed. "We did it," Amara finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. "We actually did it." "This changes everything," Kai added, running a hand through his disheveled hair. "Every textbook, every theory." Maya's response was more measured. "It changes everything only if it's reproducible. Let's run a complete diagnostic and prepare for another test tomorrow night." What none of them realized was that their breakthrough had been observed far beyond the confines of their underground laboratory. Across the vast emptiness of space, in a sector humans had not yet begun to explore, an alert chimed in the monitoring chamber of the Galactic Council's Science Division. Observer Analyst Vakur, an entity from a species that had achieved interstellar travel when humans were still perfecting agriculture, studied the incoming data with growing concern. "Director," Vakur called, the translator matrix converting their vibrational speech into something comprehensible across species. "We have an anomaly report from Sol 3. Director Zhou Laren moved across the chamber, 6 appendages carrying her crystalline body with fluid grace. After 15,000 cycles overseeing the science division, very little surprised her. But as she reviewed the data Vakur had flagged, her crystalline structure briefly shifted colors, the equivalent of a gasp in her species. "Verify these readings," she commanded. "This must be a sensor malfunction." "Already verified, Director," Vakur confirmed. Triple redundancy protocols were followed. The primitive species on Sol 3 has achieved localized manipulation of fundamental constants. "Impossible." Zhou Laren's dismissal was automatic. "They are barely a Class 7 civilization. They haven't even unified their planetary government or established permanent settlements beyond their homeworld." Nevertheless, Vakur insisted, "The data is conclusive. For approximately 17 of their minutes, they created a field that violated the unified theory of cosmic constants." Zhou Laren studied the readings again, her mind racing through the implications. The species of Sol 3, humans, they called themselves, had been monitored as a matter of routine scientific observation. Their technological progress had been notable for its speed, but unremarkable in its direction. They were following the standard developmental trajectory of all intelligent species, discovering the laws of their universe and gradually learning to work within them. But this suggested something completely different. "Has the High Council been informed?" she asked. "Not yet, Director. I thought it prudent to consult with you first." "Wise decision," Zhou Laren acknowledged. "Prepare a full report, but classify it at the highest security level. We need to understand exactly what we're dealing with before causing unnecessary alarm." As Vakur returned to their monitoring station, Zhou Laren moved to a private communication chamber. What troubled her most wasn't that humans had achieved something remarkable. It was that they had done so without following the expected path. Throughout the galaxy, scientific progress followed predictable patterns. Species discovered the immutable laws of reality and developed technologies that operated within those constraints. Humans, it seemed, had taken a different approach. Instead of accepting limitations, they had questioned them. And now, they had broken through. Zhou Laren initiated contact with Angstver, her counterpart in the Galactic Security Division. This situation required more than scientific observation. If humans could manipulate fundamental constants, They represented something unprecedented in galactic history, a young species with the potential to rewrite the rules that governed cosmic existence. Security Director Anxver. She began once the secure connection was established. We have a situation developing on Sol 3 that requires immediate attention. The Security Director's response was predictably direct. Are the humans developing weapons technology beyond their classification? No, Jolaren replied. Something far more concerning. They're developing physics beyond our classification. Unaware of the interstellar attention they had attracted, Maya and her team spent the following week reproducing and refining their results. Each test of the Paradox engine yielded more data, more questions, and more possibilities. The applications are endless. Kai enthused during one of their rare breaks. Energy production that defies conservation laws. Gravity manipulation. Theoretically, even faster than light communication might be possible. Maya nodded, though her mind was already racing ahead to problems they hadn't yet solved. The field is still too unstable for practical applications, and the power requirements are enormous. But you've proven the concept, Amara pointed out. That's what matters. You've shown that quantum effects can be maintained and manipulated at the macro level. No one believed that was possible. No one except Maya. From her childhood in rural India to her education at the world's top physics institutions, she had been told repeatedly what was and wasn't possible. But she had always suspected that the limitations weren't in the universe itself, they were in how humans perceived it. We need to prepare our findings for publication, Maya decided. Full transparency, all data included. Are you sure? Kai asked, surprised. This could be worth, well, everything. Patents, private development. Maya shook her head firmly. Science doesn't advance through secrecy. If this technology can do what we think it can, humanity needs it. All of humanity. What Maya couldn't know was that her decision to publish would accelerate a crisis that was already brewing among the stars. On the Galactic Council's central administrative world, a special session had been convened with unprecedented urgency. Representatives from over 200 advanced civilizations gathered to address what was being called the Sol 3 anomaly. The situation is clear. Security Director Anxver addressed the assembly, his holographic form towering above the central platform. The humans have demonstrated capabilities that contradict our understanding of physical limitations. One experiment does not constitute a crisis, objected Counselor to Prax of the Centauri Alliance, her feathered crest rising in irritation. Many species dabble in theoretical physics that appears to break conventional rules. The effects are always limited and temporary. Science Director Jolaren moved forward. This is different, Counselor. Our analysis confirms that the humans have achieved sustained manipulation of quantum coherence at the macro level. They're not just bending the rules, they're rewriting them. A murmur swept through the assembly. What exactly are you suggesting? Teprax demanded. I am suggesting, Jolaren replied deliberately, that the humans possess a fundamentally different relationship with physical law than any species we have previously encountered. They don't accept limitations, they challenge them. High Counselor Vexer, the eldest and most respected member of the Galactic Council, raised a gnarled appendage for attention. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of millennia of experience. Throughout our long history, we have encountered many young species, some warlike, some peaceful, some technologically gifted, others more spiritually inclined. But all of them have developed within the framework of universal constants that we ourselves discovered ages ago. If the humans have found ways to manipulate these constants, he paused, his multiple eyes blinking in sequence, then they represent something unprecedented and potentially dangerous. We should contain them immediately, Nexver declared. Standard isolation protocols until we fully understand their capabilities. Contain an entire species based on one laboratory experiment. Teprax countered. That's an overreaction that violates our most basic principles. As the debate intensified, Jolaren studied the latest data from Earth. The humans were preparing to publish their findings. Soon, not just one research team, but potentially thousands of human scientists would be exploring this new frontier of physics. "There is another option," she said, silencing the arguments around her. "We could make contact." The council chamber fell silent. The Galactic Council had strict protocols regarding contact with emerging civilizations. Species were typically left to develop independently until they achieved faster-than-light travel or communications, at which point they were formally welcomed into the galactic community. It would be unprecedented, Vex acknowledged. No species at their development stage has ever been contacted. "They are doing unprecedented things," Jolaren replied. "Perhaps that warrants an unprecedented response." After hours of heated debate, the Council reached a compromise. A small delegation would be sent to Earth, not for full diplomatic contact, but for limited scientific exchange. They would assess the true extent of human capabilities and determine whether they posed a genuine threat to cosmic stability. The publication of Maya's research paper, Quantum Coherence Manipulation and Implications for Fundamental Physical Constants, created a scientific earthquake on Earth. At first dismissed as experimental error or misinterpretation, the paper's meticulous documentation and the reputation of the International Quantum Research Institute forced even the most skeptical scientists to take it seriously. Within days, research teams around the world began attempting to replicate the results. Within weeks, 3 separate laboratories had succeeded. Maya found herself suddenly thrust into global prominence, invited to conferences, interviewed by major news organizations, approached by government agencies and private corporations alike. But she remained focused on her work, already planning the next stage of experiments. "Dr. Sharma," a reporter asked during a rare press conference, "some physicists are saying your work violates fundamental laws of physics. How do you respond to that?" Maya smiled slightly. "The universe doesn't violate its own laws. If our observations don't match our understanding of those laws, it's our understanding that needs to change, not the observations." The statement, broadcast globally, was also received by the approaching Galactic Council ship, now just beyond Luna's orbit. Science Director Jolaren, who had insisted on leading the mission personally, replayed the human's words several times. "Fascinating perspective," she noted to Vakur, who had accompanied her. "Most young species accept the limitations they discover. Humans question them. Is that admirable or dangerous?" Vakur wondered. "Perhaps both," Jolaren replied as the Earth grew larger in their viewing portal. "We're about to find out." Beyond limitations. Dr. Maya Sharma stood absolutely still as the alien delegation materialized in the secure conference room of the International Quantum Research Institute. Despite weeks of preparation following the shocking announcement of their arrival, the reality of facing non-human intelligence rendered her momentarily speechless. The delegation consisted of 3 beings. The apparent leader possessed a crystalline form that subtly shifted colors with her movements. Beside her stood a tall, willowy entity with 6 limbs and skin that seemed to shimmer between solid and translucent states. The third was more mechanoid in appearance, though clearly biological, with multiple sensory clusters where a human would have a face. Dr. Maya Sharma, the crystalline being, spoke, her words translated by a small hovering device between them. "I am Science Director Jolaren of the Galactic Council. We have come a great distance to discuss your work on fundamental constant manipulation." Maya found her voice. "You've been monitoring us." It wasn't a question, but Jolaren inclined her crystalline form in what approximated a nod. "All developing worlds are observed for scientific purposes. Your recent breakthrough accelerated our timetable for contact." Behind Maya, her team members Kai and Amara exchanged glances. The government officials and military personnel positioned around the room shifted uneasily. This first official contact with extraterrestrial life had been carefully orchestrated, with representatives from major world powers present. Yet it was clear who the aliens had come to see. "Your paper on quantum coherence manipulation was quite impressive," continued Jolaren. especially considering your civilization's developmental stage. Maya raised an eyebrow at the condescension, subtle as it was. Thank you. Though I suspect our developmental stage is precisely why you're here. Our work makes you uncomfortable. The willowy entity, introduced as Observer Analyst Vakur, emitted a series of vibrations that the translator rendered as something between a laugh and a sigh. Direct, aren't they? He commented to no one in particular. Zholaren's crystalline form shifted to a deeper blue. Not uncomfortable, Dr. Sharma. Concerned. The manipulation of fundamental constants has far-reaching implications that extend beyond your world. Perhaps we should continue this conversation in my laboratory, Maya suggested, gesturing toward the door. I believe demonstrations will be more productive than theoretical discussions. As the unusual procession moved through the Institute's corridors, Maya noted how the aliens studied everything: the architecture, the technology, even the humans themselves, with intense scientific curiosity. Despite their advanced status, they seemed genuinely fascinated by Earth. In the main laboratory chamber, the paradox engine waited. The device had evolved significantly since their first successful test, now more elegant and refined, though the principles remained the same. This is the primary apparatus, Maya explained, indicating the spherical central component. It creates a field in which quantum coherence can be maintained at the macro level, allowing for the manipulation of what we previously considered immutable constants. The third alien, security specialist Engstol, moved closer to the device, multiple sensor appendages extending toward it without actually touching. Remarkable simplicity, he observed. We expected something far more complex. Sometimes the most profound breakthroughs come from the simplest insights, Maya replied. Would you like to see it in operation? The aliens exchanged what could only be interpreted as concerned glances. Is that entirely safe? Zholaren asked. Maya smiled slightly. We've run over 50 successful tests. The effects are fully contained within our shielding systems. After receiving approval from her government handlers, Maya directed her team to initiate the demonstration sequence. The laboratory lights dimmed as power redirected to the paradox engine. The sphere began to rotate, energy fields coalescing around it, just as they had during that first successful test. Quantum coherence at 94% and stable, Kai reported. Initiating constant manipulation, Maya announced, making a series of adjustments through the holographic interface. The energy field surrounding the sphere transformed, taking on a pulsing quality that made the very air seem to vibrate. Within the containment area, small objects began to float, defying gravity in a way that couldn't be explained by electromagnetic forces. We're currently reducing the gravitational constant by approximately 22% within the field, Maya explained. We can also manipulate other constants, though not all simultaneously yet. The aliens were utterly still, their attention fixed on the device and its effects. When Maya finally powered down the system, Zholaren was the first to speak. In all my 15,000 cycles, she said, her translator struggling to convey her tone, I have never witnessed anything like this. 15,000. Kai began, then stopped himself. Yes, Dr. Chen, Zholaren confirmed. Your species is quite young by galactic standards, which makes your achievement all the more remarkable and concerning. Maya crossed her arms. I understand your concern. This technology could be weaponized, but it could also revolutionize energy production, space travel, medicine, countless fields. It is not merely the technology that concerns us, Vakur interjected. It is what it represents about your species. You question fundamental laws. You refuse to accept limitations that most species recognize as immutable. Isn't that what science is? Maya challenged. Questioning assumptions, testing boundaries. Within established parameters, Engstol countered. There are constants in the universe that all other species have recognized as beyond manipulation. Maya smiled. Then perhaps all other species gave up too easily. The statement hung in the air, crystallizing the fundamental difference between human scientific philosophy and that of the Galactic Council. Where they saw boundaries, humans saw challenges. Where they accepted limitations, humans questioned them. "They're everywhere," Security Director HFY reported to the emergency session of the Galactic Council, his holographic form vibrating with agitation. Not just the original research team. Laboratories across their world are replicating and expanding upon the initial breakthrough. The special session had been called after the first reports from Earth had reached the Council. What had begun as a scientific assessment mission had evolved into something far more complex. "How is this possible?" demanded Counselor to Prax. "They're sharing this technology freely, without restrictions." "It's not their technology they're sharing," Science Director Joel clarified, her holographic presence joining the session from Earth orbit. "It's their knowledge." Dr. Sharma published her findings in what they call open access journals. The information is available to any human scientist with the resources to use it. High Counselor Vexer's expression was grave. "And how many research teams have successfully replicated the effects?" 17 at last count, Joel replied, with more announcing success each day. "And each team is taking the research in slightly different directions. Some focus on energy applications, others on gravitational manipulation, still others on quantum communication systems. It's exponential development," HFY warned. "At this rate, they could achieve capabilities rivaling our own within decades, not centuries." The council chamber erupted in concerned murmurs. A species advancing too quickly posed numerous risks. To themselves, to other developing worlds, potentially to the galactic community as a whole. "There are protocols for this situation," HFY continued. "Controlled technological suppression, targeted memory alteration of key scientists. We've used these measures before with volatile species. Those measures were designed for species developing dangerous weapons technologies." Prax objected. "Not for peaceful scientific advancement, however unconventional." "The distinction may be academic," HFY countered. "Their approach to fundamental physics could destabilize regions of space far beyond their solar system if misapplied." Joel's crystalline form shifted colors as she prepared to speak. "After direct observation, I believe standard containment protocols would be both ineffective and counterproductive with humans." "Explain," Vexer requested. "Their creativity appears to be their defining characteristic," she said. "Where obstacles are placed before them, they find ways around, over, or through them. Any attempt to suppress their development would likely drive it underground, making it more dangerous, not less." "What do you propose instead?" Vexer asked. "Something unprecedented," Joel replied. "Full disclosure and open exchange." The council chamber fell silent. "You suggest we share advanced technological knowledge with a species that hasn't even unified their planet?" HFY was incredulous. "I suggest," Joel clarified, "that we guide their development rather than suppress it. Humanity will advance with or without our intervention. If we engage openly, we can at least influence the direction of that advancement." As the council debated, none of them realized that events on Earth were already forcing their hand. Maya found Dr. Ryota Tanaka waiting outside her office when she arrived the morning after the alien delegation's visit. The renowned Japanese physicist had been among the first to successfully replicate her work, pushing the boundaries even further with his team at Tokyo University. "Dr. Sharma," he greeted her with a respectful bow. "I apologize for the unexpected visit, but after hearing about your extraterrestrial guests, I felt we should talk immediately." Inside her office, Tanaka didn't waste time. "My team has discovered something concerning. When we expanded the field effect beyond your published parameters, we detected ripples in space-time extending far beyond our containment systems." Maya frowned. "That shouldn't be possible with the shielding configurations we developed." "The ripples don't propagate through normal space," Tanaka explained, pulling up complex mathematical models on his tablet. "They travel through what we believe is a subquantum layer of reality, a deeper level than our current physics models account for. Maya studied the equations, her concern growing. If these effects propagate through subquantum channels, our containment systems would be useless. The implications for nearby space. Precisely, Tanaka nodded grimly. And we're not the only ones who've noticed. I've received communications from teams in Beijing, Moscow, and Berkeley reporting similar observations. The realization hit Maya like a physical blow. Their breakthrough, revolutionary as it was, carried risks they hadn't anticipated. If these subquantum ripples could propagate across vast distances, they might disrupt natural systems throughout the solar system, potentially beyond. We need to establish new protocols immediately, she decided, reaching for her communication device. All research teams need to be warned. That's why I came in person, Tanaka said quietly. Some teams may not stop. The potential applications are too valuable, the prestige too great. Maya understood the problem. With research teams around the world now working independently on the technology, coordinated control would be nearly impossible. And if Tanaka was right about the subquantum effects, continued unregulated experimentation could have catastrophic consequences. The aliens, she realized suddenly. They must know about this. It could be why they're here. Before she could pursue that thought further, her device chimed with an urgent message. Across the globe, multiple research facilities working on quantum coherence manipulation were reporting unexpected system failures. More concerning, astronomical observatories were detecting unusual activity in the orbital patterns of several satellites. It's starting already, Tanaka said grimly. We detect significant subquantum disturbances throughout the solar system, Vacher reported to Jolaren aboard their ship. Multiple human research facilities are generating overlapping fields without proper synchronization. Jolaren's crystalline form darkened with concern. This is developing faster than we anticipated. The humans don't understand the cascading effects their experiments will have. The Council has not yet reached a decision on intervention protocols. Engstol reminded her. We may not have time to wait for consensus, Jolaren replied. If these subquantum disruptions reach critical threshold, they could trigger gravitational anomalies throughout this sector. Their discussion was interrupted by an incoming communication request. From Earth, on the holographic display appeared Dr. Maya Sharma. Director Jolaren. She began without preamble. We're detecting systemic anomalies consistent with subquantum field disruptions. I believe our various research teams' experiments are having cumulative effects we didn't anticipate. Jolaren was momentarily surprised by the human's insight. You've detected the subquantum ripples. Yes, though we've only recently understood their significance. We need your help to coordinate a global response before the situation deteriorates further. The request was unprecedented. A developing species asking for advanced technological assistance. Under normal circumstances, the protocols were clear: minimal intervention, preservation of natural development patterns. But these were not normal circumstances. I will consult with the Council, Jolaren began. With respect, Maya interrupted. We may not have time for consultations. Our models suggest exponential growth in the disruption patterns. Within hours, we could see effects on planetary orbital mechanics. Jolaren made her decision. Transmitting coordinates now, Dr. Sharma. Bring your core team and your data. We'll establish joint operations from our vessel. After ending the transmission, Vacher turned to his superior. The Council will not approve. Then they can censure me afterward, Jolaren replied. If we don't act now, there may not be an afterward for this solar system. The bridge of the Galactic Council vessel was a marvel of technology so advanced it bordered on incomprehensible to human minds. Maya, Kai, and Tanaka stood surrounded by holographic displays showing the spreading subquantum disruptions throughout the solar system. The cascading effect is accelerating, Jolaren explained. Each new experiment triggers resonance patterns in the subquantum field, which then stimulate further disruptions. Like ripples in a pond overlapping and amplifying each other, Kai suggested. A simplified analogy, but essentially correct. Vakur acknowledged. Maya studied the galactic standard mathematical models with growing understanding. We need to generate a counter-resonance pattern, something to dampen the ripples rather than trying to block them. Jolaren's crystalline form brightened slightly, her species equivalent of raised eyebrows. That approach has merit, but would require precise coordination across multiple points in your solar system. Your ship can't handle that alone. Tanaka asked. One vessel? No, Angstol confirmed. We would need at least 5 synchronized generators at specific geometric points relative to your sun. Maya exchanged glances with her colleagues. We have the technology to build the generators based on our paradox engine design. What we lack is the subquantum field modeling to properly calibrate them, which we could provide. Jolaren finished the thought. A joint operation. For a moment, no one spoke as the implications settled in. The most advanced civilization in the galaxy working alongside a species still confined to their home solar system, combining technologies to address a crisis neither could handle alone. The Council will never approve direct technological transfer, Angstol warned. They don't need to transfer the technology, Maya pointed out. Just the mathematical models. We'll build the hardware ourselves. Over the next 12 hours, an unprecedented collaboration took shape. While Jolaren's team provided the advanced theoretical frameworks for subquantum field manipulation, human scientists from across the globe worked at remarkable speed to adapt their existing technology to the new specifications. Research teams that had been competing fiercely just days before now coordinated their efforts with military precision. 5 paradox engine derivatives were deployed to specific points throughout the solar system, transported by the fastest spacecraft Earth could provide. From the Council ship, Maya watched the holographic display as the 5 counter-resonance generators came online one by one. Each activated generator began emitting precisely calibrated fields that interacted with the subquantum disruptions, gradually dampening the cascading effects. It's working, Kai confirmed, studying the real-time data. Disruption patterns are decaying at an exponential rate. Remarkable adaptation speed, Vakur noted. Most species would have required months to implement these modifications. Maya smiled slightly. Most species accept limitations. We question them. As the crisis subsided, Maya found herself standing beside Jolaren, watching Earth rotate slowly on the main view screen. Your council will need to decide what happens next, Maya said quietly. Whether to continue open exchange or attempt to contain our development. Yes, Jolaren acknowledged. Though after today's events, I believe the decision may already be made for them. How so? In all my years observing developing species, I have never seen one accomplish what humanity did today. You didn't just use our models, you improved them. Your counter-resonance generators achieved 23% greater efficiency than our theoretical maximum. Maya hadn't realized this. How is that possible? Your civilization is thousands of years ahead of ours. Technologically, yes. Jolaren's crystalline form shifted through a spectrum of colors as she considered her next words carefully. But there is something unique about how humans approach problems. Where we see limits, you see questions. Where we establish parameters, you push boundaries. Isn't that just good science? It is a different kind of science, Jolaren replied. One that may complement our own in ways we never anticipated. As the Earth continued its eternal rotation below them, a new understanding began to take shape, not just between 2 individuals, but between 2 civilizations. The Galactic Council had arrived expecting to contain a potential threat. Instead, they found themselves contemplating a partnership with a species whose greatest strength wasn't their technology, but their refusal to accept that anything was truly impossible.